there's anything I enjoy, it's a good debate. And here we go. Top 10 NHL GMs currently. So this isn't all time. This is currently. I base this on the direction I see the team headed in. I factored in how are they doing with the salary cap and historical success that a GM's had with a certain team. And I did my best to make this as fair as possible. So full on, I'm going to say right now, Don Sweeney's not top 10. Jim Nill's not top 10. Jim Benning is not top 10. Just throwing that out there right off the bat. Who is top 10? Now, a year ago, Kevin Cheveldayoff doesn't get into this conversation. But his patience with the team and his belief in the core that he had put together has started to pay off. It's absolutely started to pay off. So Chevel pay off? Huh? Hey? No, that's terrible. It's awful. Winnipeg looks good, and Cheveldayoff plays a large role in that. So for people who might be tuning in and saying, well, which GM's that? I'll just put that right there. There you go. Kevin Cheveldayoff, Winnipeg Jets. A year ago, I was along the lines of maybe they should get rid of this guy. It's just not working. Right now, holding off on all that. Maybe it's okay after all. Number 9. I believe I had him top 3 last year. Stan Bowman for the Hawks. The Hawks are starting to show some cracks here and there. I'm not sure about the decision to bring back Patrick Sharp. And I know Hawks fans are probably not going to be happy with me for that. But the decision to bring back old faces can be a problematic one, depending on who you're bringing back. And I don't know that Bowman necessarily made the right decisions with Chicago right now. And I look at Teravainen tearing it up in Carolina, and I wonder, if there's another prospect somehow he could have used to get rid of a contract he wanted to get rid of, other than Teravainen. Because he would look pretty good in a Chicago jersey right now. That would have been a pretty solid upgrade over where they're at right now. Number 8, and yet ironically, Ron Francis is not in the top 10. Number 8, I have Bob Murray. Bob Murray, of course, is famously the GM of the Ducks. He makes a lot of good moves, and he doesn't always get credit for it. I know the Ducks are down right now. That's because of injuries, but then he went out and made the Henrique trade. The Henrique trade was a stroke of genius by him. In that Vatanen was a known guy. He was known as the guy who was on his way out the door. Cam Fowler was the one, right? Everybody was, a couple years ago, everybody was like, oh, Fowler's going to go. I never understood that. I thought, what, Fowler's a better defenseman than people are giving him credit for. And then it was Vatanen that goes, but later, much later. So they bring in Henrique, and I really think that it'll help them. I still think these guys are going to be in the playoffs by the end of the year. As dark as it may look right now, they just have to make sure they stay in the mix, though. Can't go on a long losing streak. But even if they do, that's not Bob Murray. That's injuries. A lot of injuries, which can't blame on the GM. And he's doing his best to mitigate the circumstance. They always have good prospects coming up. I can't find fault in Murray's game as a general manager. I have him at 8th because the guys ahead of him, there's just some really, really good general managers right now. And number 7 is no exception to that rule. Jarmo Kekalainen in Columbus. Where'd Columbus go? I didn't plan this out ahead of time. I just thought, I better put GMs next to their logos so that people watching know which team. Anyways, Columbus has become relevant for the first time ever. The Blue Jackets are now a dangerous team. They're a contending team. Bobrovsky's become one of the best goalies in the league after being cast off from Philadelphia. Good thing Philadelphia got their goaltending situation all straightened out. And for me, Columbus is one of those teams that looks like they can sustain this. I know they've had cap problems, but in being able to get Clarkson off the books, pretty smart. And being able to play a little bit of hardball with Anderson and get everybody under contract so that they can move forward with what they have without losing anybody substantial. Pretty smart moves all around by Kekalainen. He's a very good general manager. All 10 of these guys are pretty damn good at their job. Number 6. I could just stop with the first name. I actually probably could have stopped with the first name in almost all of them. Lou Lamoriello of the Montreal Canadiens. Toronto Maple Leafs, of course. Lou's turned the team around. The real sign of how well Lou's done. The criticism with Lou's been, well, he just came in and lucked out and got Austin Matthews. And yet when Matthews was out for those 4 games, Toronto won all 4. So Lamoriello's done a pretty damn good job of creating a solid team for Toronto, taking that atmosphere of losing out of the Maple Leafs organization and bringing in guys that believed in themselves. I said last year these kids were too dumb to know they're supposed to lose. That the Leafs were filled with players who were just too young and too stupid to know that your guys are supposed to lose these games. These are games Toronto loses. So, and they've continued that this year. And that's directly related to Lou Lamoriello coming in, tearing the whole thing down, and building really quickly. The Marlowe signing looks to have been a smart move after all. We'll see where we feel about that contract a couple years from now. But honestly, if they end up winning a Stanley Cup, I don't think anybody will complain about any of the contracts he signs ever. Because, they'll have statues erected for him before the cup's even handed over, you name it. Number 5. I wouldn't have had this guy in the top 10 as recently as July. But Ray Shero has done a pretty damn nice job with the Devils. And this, again, goes along with Lamoriello. Making a team that's not great, relevant again. The Devils are relevant again. The Devils are young, they're fast, they're talented. And they can win games when their best players are on the shelf. Much like Toronto. Well, Toronto's had to go without Matthews for a few games. Toronto hasn't really had the adversity that's beset an Anaheim, New Jersey, and, of course, Minnesota. Cliff Fletcher's not on this list. Just going to throw that out there. He was 11th. So, sorry. Ray Shero, though, at 5th. I couldn't feel that I didn't feel that I could drop him any further down than that. Number 4 is a GM that as recently as the past trade deadline I said was just ridiculous. Just ridiculous. Doug Armstrong, St. Louis. Shattenkirk. You didn't get enough for Shattenkirk, trading him away to Washington, not getting anybody back who's going to be on the roster. He's crazy. What a stupid move. And I was wrong. They got rid of Shattenkirk and they got better. The Blues got better. And they have a really solid blue line. I know at the time I'm recording this, Jake Allen's stats are a little low, but I still believe that kid is going to be in the league for another 10 years. And he's going to be a starter for most of that time. And the Blues up front are pretty good. They're a pretty good team from top to bottom. And that directly reflects on the team that Doug Armstrong's been able to build. Number 3. Okay. Again, I could have just gone with first names. First names and the team logo. Just because we can be on a first name basis with our GMs. Jim Rutherford, Pittsburgh. Back-to-back Stanley Cups. He was number 1 at that point. He's at number 3 right now because of the amount they lost in the offseason. Riley Sheehan, I don't... now there's rumors that maybe Bozak will be going over there from Toronto to help solidify the center spot while Malkin's out. The idea of Bozak for Cole is humorous, but I think Pittsburgh would have to offer more than just Cole for Bozak. Because Bozak's a legit number 3 center, and he's pretty darn good at it. So, and the thing, too, is if Pittsburgh does that move, then what do they do with the bottom six? Like, so when Malkin comes back, then what happens with your bottom six? Like, there's still moves being made, and I'm not sure that Pittsburgh isn't kind of spinning its wheels right now. And I know they've, at the time I'm recording this, they've won 4 in a row and they're looking good. But there's still holes in this roster, and whether it's his fault or it's not his fault, I do feel there's 2 GMs that right now I think are the top 2 GMs in the NHL. Number 2. David Poile with Nashville. Nashville was middle of the road, mediocre for years. Now they're a contender. They were in the Stanley Cup final last year. And there's one constant throughout that. David Poile. The only general manager that the Nashville Predators have ever known. He is going to go down as one of the greatest GMs ever, even though he's never won a Stanley Cup. At certain points in time, Nashville has not been a cap team. They've been a budget team. They haven't been able to ice a top team. There was the one year they decided to go for it, and they added guys like Peter Forsberg. I hear he was pretty good. And yet they didn't make it that year. So there have been times where they've really gone for it. It felt like last spring they went for it. And then in the offseason this past summer, they've really gone for it. And I think Poile, with some of his additions and the way that he's kept players around, he's smart with the cap. The swap to bring in PK Subban, and now he brings in Nick Bonino, and now he gets Kyle Turris. He's really pretty damn good at this. He's built a really, really solid team for the Nashville Predators. And they're not just solid now, they're a team that can sustain this for a while, as long as, once Rene's decided to move on, they can find somebody to replace him. That's really the key for them. And number 1, Jim Benning. No, I'm just kidding. Oh, the internet would just melt down if I did that, wouldn't they? I look forward to the next April Fool's Day. I'm going to come up with an epic one. Because number 1 is Steve Yzerman in Tampa. Other GMs coming out of last season might have moved guys out or made changes. Tampa really didn't make any big changes. And when they decided, well, we'll move out Drouin, they got Sergachev. Sergachev is exactly what Tampa needed. They're that one piece that they needed. That young, future, top 4 defenseman who can run a power play and score goals for you. And they got him for a guy they weren't going to be able to afford to keep, in Jonathan Drouin. Yzerman has consistently managed to get guys to stay for likely below market value, whether it's Kucherov or it's Stamkos. And he's the reason why, when I look ahead and I say, oh man, they're probably going to have an Armageddon when it comes to their cap. They're going to have to blow the team up. I hesitate to worry about it because Yzerman to this point has proven to be a ninja with the salary cap. And they're still a damn good team. You look at the prospects that they've got. You look at the young guys they got in the lineup. And just the moves they keep making. Every move seems like a smart move. I can't think of a move that Yzerman's made that I've looked at and said, well, that was stupid. So for right now, for where we're at, those are, I believe, the top 10 GMs. The only Canadian GMs I have in here are Lamoriello at 6, Cheveldayoff at 10. But again, it's one man's opinion. Let me know your opinion. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you're browsing your way through. And for me anyways, those are the top 10 general managers in the NHL. Thanks for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.